Hello, everyone. I'm Nishant, and I started doing DAOs almost after 12 years of working in corporate and having done a Web2 startup. And I was so enamored by the concept that I asked myself why it's not mainstream. If it is so promising, then why it's not, all over the place? And that led me to this question. The other thing is that in this room today you are here, of course you are interested in DAOs, but I want you to feel that, in months to come or years to come, most probably you will be part of a DAO in some capacity, which we will see here. So to understand this better, let's go back in time a little bit. It's like 150 years ago, JP Morgan first rolled out the concept of shares when people were just small proprietors like blacksmith, bread maker, and at that time you could not use these shares to, let's say, buy bread or travel somewhere. But over time, with vision and with trial and error, this concept has evolved into organizations that we know today. And but I think today it's also a time for a reboot change. Why? Because we are facing one of the toughest challenges, whether it's climate crisis, whether it's wealth inequality, whether it's disenchantment with political system. So there is a need for change. But is it possible, or how is it possible? So some of the things my peer Ivan already covered, but I would reemphasize that capital coordination, the way it can happen today thanks to blockchain, the way within hours you can pool in millions of dollars and you can then deploy it for productive activities and then share the revenues, so on and so forth, thanks to smart contracts. We have heard of quarterly reports, audits, but nothing like this, transparency instantly, you can run algorithms, you can read what's going on and detect any fraud. So this is welcome to the world of, I would say, open source organizations. And finally, adaptability. I find it one of the most seductive concepts because you can fork. If you see that the system is getting corrupt, or if your voice is not being heard, then you can always, with your band of people, copy the source code and change it, and then create another DAO. And the best will win in the long term. So these are the three things which tells us that the time has come. Okay, so are we going to create new organizations? Or how would current organizations, traditional organizations, adapt to this reality? Let's answer that question. So imagine the first case, the joint venture. Let's say 50 or 100 companies of Belgium were to make a DAO together and say that we will solve the three biggest problems of Belgium. And in doing so, as they earn certain reputation, rewards proportionate to their contribution, they can claim tax benefit from the government. So let's say this is the first category, where corporates have representatives and a DAO is formed. Transition. Well, we have already seen the examples from family offices to professionally governed. So now that transition is happening to decentralized organization. Collaborate. Well, let's think of a big bank. They want to set up their charity division. They can make a DAO out of it. Or you want to run your innovation division with more autonomy. You can have a DAO. Or you can just collaborate with any DAO, which we heard in the Aragon example. So some of the models which come to our mind when you think about, okay, I'm corporate, is DAO a thing out there? I would say no, it's very much possible. Okay. But then when you start thinking about DAO, here is a big, maybe you think that, okay, I'm going to set up a DAO, maybe there will be members, what kind of voting will be there. But you know what? There is a fallacy, there's a problem with that. What we hear more often is that okay, I have 1,000 members, but only 5% are showing up for voting, or people are not very engaged. Why is that problem? The problem is because of the inside-out thinking. Actually, your DAO is not, just a standalone entity. It's going to be a part of an ecosystem which consists of other DAOs, which consists of other traditional organizations, and an individual, you, will have a choice to be part of whichever DAO he or she chooses to be. And same for the customers. And you know what? If the work that your DAO is doing matters to the guy and is giving him or her the reward, he's going to come up, open the dashboard of the DAO every morning at 9 a.m., and he's going to contribute, okay? So the low contribution is coming purely from a simple fact that the person is not finding enough, value. And of course, as the ecosystem evolves, and that the market will find the correct place. Okay. A beautiful example of this, which comes to my mind, is an octopus. I don't know how many of you have watched My Octopus Teacher, Oscar-winning documentary on Netflix. It's such an intelligent being, with senses throughout. It has distributed intelligence on its body, and it's like super adaptable. We can talk more about it, the analogy of a beer, but the thing is that just as an octopus senses the environment, adapts, a DAO is supposed to have that kind of flexibility. All right, now coming more to the real world. DAOs are microeconomies, okay? And you need to answer some very easy to understand common sense questions, and these are some of the questions. That this microeconomy will have tokens as levers, to elicit certain kind of behaviors. And you ask that, what is this token economy trying to achieve? Achieve means from an outside perspective, from an inside perspective, And then who are the stakeholders? And how do you, by your incentive, really align an individual's aspirations to the collective goal? So, this is just a simple question which one needs to understand at gut level to be sure that you are doing the right things. Of course, you can go further than this to talk about the monetary policy and the supply, inflation. All these things come later. But whatever I've been trying to talk so far is more like how do you really reason at a very common sense level and ask the right simple questions. Okay, so then, the other thing is that, of course, all of you kind of work in different organizations, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel, okay? There is a lot of fine-tuning which has happened in organization in terms of onboarding, in terms of project management, levers of motivation. They're all going to be used and adapted to the new governance structure. But, it's not like we need to just, reinvent the wheel for the sake of reinventing, to throw new words and to sound more disruptive, they are great things. Let's use what they, as they are, okay? So having said that, Lomads, how do we think about this space? We think that DAOs as means to an end, It's not an end that, okay, I fancy creating a Web3 project, let's go and do this. Which means that if you are a business and you want to have a customer-facing app, whether it's to buy sustainable fashion brand or whether it's to live in a co-living space, the DAO is just serving as the backend, and it will be like the AWS of whatever is happening in the front end, right? So that's one way of thinking about it. The second one is inter-DAO relationships, okay? Which is what I drew in the where I showed different DAOs and part of that ecosystem. So I think the next generation of DAO tooling platforms will really take into account this factor, like how DAOs are interacting with each other and creating value together. For example, one DAO can co-own apartments in Brussels, and the other DAO can actually service those apartments, So like one can create the next Airbnb of a local Airbnb, and the other can be the servicing DAO for that. And finally, the reputation and the access system. So in DAO, everything, your participation should not be in all cases based on the financial contribution you make, which is your token ownership. So in order to account for other kinds of contribution, your loyalty, your contribution, let's say you're part of a service DAO, and what matters is the number of projects that you have been part of, and successful projects. So maybe you are earning more and more reputation. For a brand, you're buying like a sustainability fashion brand, you are buying more and more of sustainable products, maybe you are earning more reputation. So I think, and that will allow you access here. So, yeah, I think this is something we are building, and it's quite exciting. And maybe we should take even further step backward and think about what Yuval Noah Harari said. I don't have nothing against the ants and the chimps, but what's important is that, like human beings are what we are because of, our ability to coordinate, at scale, which other animals cannot do. And I think it's really not about ruling the world, but it's actually about saving us from ourselves, the mess that we have created, And we really need to upgrade the software, which is like we are using to coordinate, which we are using to, make this world what it is. So with that, I hope that, you feel more excited about DAOs than you did before. Feel free to join our project because, of course, we work, in the spirit of collaboration. And anybody who feels passionate about this space, join our Discord and just introduce yourself, and we'll see. That's about it. Thank you, guys.